Hey guys, welcome back. So I'm gonna kind of talk a little bit on the quieter side because it's getting late here and I am bushed. Um, Day 4. Well, I know the lighting is kind of bad. And then the books. Uh, so this morning I had a session on Nexus dashboard and doing multi-site VXLAN EVPN with it. So I learned a few things from the session, and um, I'm gonna go back and probably go through it again and test it out and see if I can't get multi-site orchestrator or MSO to work this time, since I've seen an actual demo go through. But it I spent some time in the world of solutions and things like that. Met a couple of additional people and things like that. So overall, the day was pretty good. The um, We went to the Cisco Live celebration. So it's this of the 4 years I've gone to Live. This is the second celebration that I've been to, and it was the Elton John concert. I am not personally a fan of Elton John. I do know some of his songs, like his bigger hits, like Rocket Man and Tiny Dancer, things like that. Um, there was an opening act. It was a DJ, and he was playing a lot of stuff that my wife and I were familiar with. So I actually had more fun and took several short videos of the DJ playing than I did of Elton John. Um, I think we stayed for probably 45 minutes of the Elton John concert. Maybe I think it was right around 10. We walked out, um, and then we got on the shuttle, and then we came back to the hotel, and uh, so and actually just felt good to have some downtime and not doing anything at all. So um, it was a good day overall. Busy day. Um, Went through some sessions, learned some stuff, things like that. I'm actually going through and spending some time reviewing the blueprint for design professional, the concentration, and trying to figure out how I'm going to if I want to do some training around it. Uh, how exactly I'm going to do that is kind of unknown at this point, but it's um, it's one of those things where I know what I want to do, and it's just a matter of getting it done. So I don't exactly know how I'm going to deliver it yet, but um, I want to go through all the different all the topics on the blueprint as thoroughly as I can, um, and do that. I think that's going to help. At least I hope it does. And I did check today that in the CCIE portal, the CCDE practical is available to me. So I will have to figure out when I want to go and actually take it. I'm thinking it's probably going to be 2 attempts, just so that I can see what it looks like, take it. I always say 2 attempts for every expert level exam, just simply for the fact that they're complicated. But that's kind of my plan with that. So I've got plans for some stuff, and I was talking to for those of you that have followed me on LinkedIn and Twitter. Yeah, yesterday was so I'm actually recording this early Thursday morning, but Tuesday night was the CCIE party, and I was able to meet Matt Rich, Andrea Bonecci, I think is how you say his last name, and then Luis Contreras, and there's a few other guys that I met, and really good conversations. But the big thing, we all kind of have the same thing in mind. We all want to go after DE and go attack that. So the big thing is to spend some time going through the material. And the drawback to design, and I think I've mentioned this previously, because it's so subjective, if you're given a use case for, or you ask a customer what direction they're trying to go, or where they're at, and they tell you, or you do some discovery and you find out their architecture is built a certain way and they're trying to go a certain direction, there might be multiple ways to get the job done, and often there is. But it's your job as the architect to come up with a way that's going to be manageable for them. At least any good consultant will try to put together the appropriate solution for the customer, and this goes across the board. I was actually I did a knock tour at Live today, and the guy that was giving the tour said, I will ask the most common question that we get, and that is, why do we not have ACI in the Cisco knock, in the topology? Because it's one of their flagship products. And the answer to the question is, it's not necessary. It doesn't add any value to the design that they've got. And I think that actually was a really good way of answering that question, because of the fact that you get the what do you call it? It's one thing to come up with designs and solutions, but the one thing that I've never been a big fan of is having a solution and looking for a problem. I'll give you a great example of a protocol that was developed. Lisp was developed. It's a solution looking for a problem. That's my opinion on Lisp. So I understand how it works. I've labbed it up a few times, but the interesting thing about it is I've never been able to come up with an actual use case to leverage it so that it would make sense to lab it out. So it's just one of those things where, if there's no value, there's got to be some value to it. If I was going to talk to a customer about it, I can't see myself using Lisp. I really can't. But that's just my opinion on the protocol. I'm not saying that Lisp is not a good protocol or anything like that. It's just that I feel like it's a problem, or it's a solution looking for a problem, is my opinion on how that works. So trying to figure the lighting out here, if that gets any better. But anyway, going back to my DE prep, my plan is to spend as much time as I need to. I'm thinking it's probably going to take me 5 or 6 months if I spend the time to go over the blueprint topics. And as I was talking to Matt, Luis, and Andrea about DE, it's one of those things where I really think in order to be effective especially in a design certification at that level, you need to have some sort of collaboration in place in order for that to work. So, for example, as Andrea asked me, how would you do that? If you were going to put together some training for it, how would you do that? And my immediate response was, well, I would probably have I would set it up in a manner that would be collaborative. Like whether it's a Discord server or a Microsoft Teams chat, or a routine call that we could have, that we'd be able to come up with a use case, a design, and then here's the requirements, the constraints. There's a couple of other terms that I can't think of off the top of my head that we would have to take into consideration in order to get the solution to work. What is the solution? Why did you pick that particular feature, capability, things like that. And I think that's useful because, with networking, there's typically more than one way to do it. And that is the piece that would need to be hashed out. The why, the when, the where, the how, all that type of stuff. So to me, if you take the design professional concentration blueprint and you lab up all the different technologies that are on it, that's going to give you a solid understanding of the technical and and a thorough walkthrough of all the technology, or every feature, every capability, so that you understand all the technologies thoroughly. Because once you understand the technology thoroughly, that to me is when you can start to figure out what parts of that can you leverage and where. You come up, somebody presents you with a design, you talk to them about what their goals are, and you try to come up with a solution. You could then start to manipulate the capabilities that you have labbed up to fit the need. And not everything is going to be necessary, right? So that's where I think the having a discussion about it would be useful. And it's like so that's why I think a pre-recorded video where I come up with a network topology in Eve that has a bunch of different things going on inside of it, and then I start walking through the technical pieces. I think that would be one piece of the design prep course where you understand how the technology works and you see it implemented. So you would understand the technical pieces first. You have to understand something. You have to understand how something works first before you can start to apply that capability as a network design and be able to take it to the next steps. And excuse me. So with that being said, that's kind of where I see that going. You lab up what you need to so that you can get the level of technical experience with it that you need in order to be able to answer design questions. You need to understand it thoroughly. Once you understand it thoroughly, then you can take it to the next step, which is, okay, what parts of it would make sense in this particular case, what won't make sense, things like that. So you can kind of start to custom fit it to whatever design you need to apply it to. And, I keep going back to the VPN question that I got on the exam, on the written, that it could have gone both ways for me. And I'm not going to rehash it here, but it's one of those things where it's like, okay, well, interesting. Like, it's you might have 2 or 3 different ways of accomplishing the goal, but and there may not be a right or wrong answer. There might be multiple right ways. Which one is the most right? Well, unlike your technical implementation exams, CCNA, CCNP Encore, and NARCI, things like that, SD-WAN, wireless, stuff like that, where you understand how the implementation works, it's easy to answer those questions because it's either A, it works, or B, it doesn't. And you can just, apply it. But when you've got it depends as your answer, that's when it gets more complicated. And that to me is where I would need to spend some time just having those design discussions. Because when you start ripping apart how things work, how you would apply that particular solution to this particular problem statement and trying to figure out the best way to handle it, that to me is where you really start to become that you get to that expert level when you start having those in-depth discussions. Because you know uh, for example, back when I was studying for my CCIE, I almost took Brian McGann's word as gospel. If he said don't do this, I didn't do it. It's basically my instructor told me not to do that. But as time progressed, I would everything that he would say don't do, I would do, and because I wanted to see what would happen. And that was also as I got more comfortable and more confident in my technical skills. So there are there's always going to be a use case for you. You just have to be willing to go take the initiative to go through it. So that's my game plan. I'm going to be probably starting that. Um, Ideally, it's going to happen before I even head back home from vacation. But it's going to be one of those things where I need to spend some time digging into the technologies, and I want to build out a topology that's going to help me do that. And uh, so, as I was thinking about it, um, the one of the things that uh, I was thinking about this actually today, and I'm curious. I'm gonna put together a shorter video, probably a short to kind of highlight it. But I was focusing on Encore and Anarsi, which are the first two exams that you would need to pass Enterprise. But then I thought to myself, well, design probably would be a good aspect of it too, and include those things, the design blueprint topics, in a workbook. So it covers design, Encore, and Anarsi all at the same time. And then it would include other technologies and to expand upon it. And so, like Get VPN, DMVPN, some SD-WAN, a VXLAN AVPN, and not make it as big as the Enterprise workbook. Well, it might even be bigger, but the goal would be to focus on the design. And then, like, we would have the troubleshooting piece to it. We would have the design aspects to it. We'd have the technical implementation piece to it. So it's like you'd have almost like a workflow where you would do the implementation pieces. Like, how do you get so take the Enterprise workbook logic and flow, where it is you have a dedicated topology, and I rebuild it based off the topic of the blueprint. And then as I'm going through that, we have we go through the individual technology stack. We go through it as thoroughly as we can, and then we take that a step further, and we come up with different designs. And we have, like, let's say we come up with 10 different use cases or something like that. I'm just kind of spitballing here. Of design one is you have to do all these things, and then it's in the book. I build it out in the configuration, and it's a different topology because now we're outside of the implementation pieces to get it working. So you've got the section of the book where you learn how the technology should get implemented, and the verification commands, stuff like that. Then you get into multiple design scenarios. Okay, now you're the architect. You've been given these scenarios, and you have to work through on how to actually get them working. And then a dedicated troubleshooting section where it is a given set of you have a dedicated topology, and it's all stood up. You're given a set of configs that you can, like, copy and paste into your routers. And what I'm thinking is it might be a topology different than what you saw than what you saw. So the topology you guys have seen me put out has been rather large, and I'm scaling it down. So I'm thinking about going back through and doing 3 exams in one. So it would be Encore topics, and RC topics, and then design topics. And then anything that falls outside of an RC would fall into design. And then we have our use cases for that. So, and try to incorporate as many technologies in the topology at one time. So would there be SD-WAN? Probably a little bit. So we'd have to cover, the bare minimum topics, like, okay, how do you get the certificate authority in there? How do you get vManage, vBond, vSmart? Maybe it's 20 labs on how to get SD-WAN completely stood up and that get operational, things like that. And it would be Viptela the vEdge, because I don't think I would have to go see what would be necessary to go through and do the C edge on the Cat 8K. I'd have to see what the options are for that. But these are just some of the ideas I'm trying to come up with, because it would benefit not only me going through and testing the technologies out, but a lot of you guys as well. And then the video series that would cover it, I would have like a dedicated design section where we would almost open it up for discussion. Like, okay, maybe we get together like once a week for an hour and a half. Maybe we take the whiteboard Wednesday, and we take that, and we, for those that are interested in doing design specific discussion, we can get together for, I don't know, an hour and a half. You guys are on a dedicated Teams call with me, but we're also streaming it to YouTube as a that could always be referenced, and we talk about different design aspects. It's like, okay, let's start talking about, and over the course of multiple weeks, we'd be able to probably cover the entire blueprint, and it's like I would go a particular direction. Somebody's like, I disagree, I would go this way instead, and to be as collaborative as possible. It's kind of the thing I'm thinking about doing. So, and none of it's like the 10 scenarios I just mentioned, that's not a fixed limit. I might come up with 15, or it might be only 6. It depends. So the idea would be to get, like, why would you use, and I'm thinking the design piece of it wouldn't even be technically an implementation piece. It would be take everything you learn from the implementation aspects of the blueprint. So you take Encore and RC, and then the design blueprint topics, you lab everything up, like the Encore workbook, or I'm sorry, the Enterprise workbook, and then based off of everything you learned in the the implementation piece, then you would take all that knowledge from that, and you would use that to try to just come up with the design. We'll come up with different scenarios, and we would walk through what that might look like, and then you'd have to be able to defend why you would go that direction. So, okay, area 0 here, not so stubby area there, so on and so forth. So I think that would be a useful tool for a lot of folks. And then once the design is decided on, then we may or may not include that as a dedicated implementation where we would go stand everything up and try to get it working. But it's more of a how would you go about getting this implemented, and then a dedicated troubleshooting section where we have a decent sized topology, and then we have a bunch of faults that are injected, and you have to go figure out what's broken, what's working, what's not, things like that. So these are just some of the things that I was thinking about as I was walking around the world of solutions, and I'm looking at because I want to make progress in the book, but at the same point in time, it's one of those things where it takes a long time to produce, but I'm going down the design track, so I want to, as I'm spending the time learning the material and going through it, I want it to be worth my time and effort. So I think that would help. So, so yeah, these are just some of the things that I've been kicking the can down the road as I'm going through this stuff, because I now have a defined goal that I want to go take on, and hopefully that would help you guys. Let me know what you guys think about doing that. So I'm going to put this video out. I'm going to do a quick short after this. But if you guys have any questions, comments, stuff like that, feel free to put it in the video, in the comments, and we can have those conversations. So until next time, guys, thanks so much for stopping by, and I'll catch all of you guys in the next one.